What are the disruptive trends that we have to be aware of and look at and make the most of it? Well, we have identified 4 trends, industry trends: mass customization, transparency, traceability, environmental sustainability, and infrastructure projects. Let's quickly touch on mass customization. Well, we all know that due to technological possibilities nowadays, and even more so in the future, customers will be able to customize their final products. Most probably on an online device. They're going to order from a web page in the train, in the aeroplane, I don't know where, while walking or sitting on a bench. They're customized products at cost levels that are almost the same of that of a mass production product. We see that already in the shoe industry. The lower picture is the Adidas shoe factory in Germany, and the same one exists also in the US. Digital printing and finishing, very close to the consumer. This will have a significant impact in the longer run to and for the textile and apparel and footwear industry. Industry 4.0 is, of course, a catchword, and we're going to see it later this year at ITMA Europe in Barcelona, when all the textile machinery manufacturers are going to present their latest technology in Barcelona in July, I think it is. It's basically really about a higher level of automation and making use of the data that is being available, and through artificial intelligence, making really use of the data that is already available, but until now was not really usable by companies, by organizations, and through better hard and software capacities. This will be possible in the future and will increase the level of automation and the acceleration of speed. Another important trend, and this is going on for quite a while, but I think it was very unclear whether and to what extent this is a trend, is certainly environmental sustainability. Obviously, this is not new, and if you look at recycling was happening since a long time, but it's becoming more and more applied in different regions, and now also in the apparel industry. More and more designers are trying to develop products that will be more easily recyclable, either by only using a certain type of fabric or by separating the fabric more easily at the end of the life cycle. Products will be more and more reused, circular economy, either by second-hand shops that are spreading, and finally also bio-based textiles will play a more important role, even though it's competing with food crops, and therefore there is a certain limitation. But environmental sustainability is something to stay, and companies, brands are paying more and more attention to it, and even more so in the future when we include the wider picture of climate change, where fashion companies now are also engaging. Just in December at the climate summit in Poland, the fashion industry actually signed, and with that I mean 40, 50 big brands, whether it's PVH, VF, Hugo Boss, Adidas, Nike. They signed the so-called Fashion Industry Charter on climate action. So they want to engage, they want to commit themselves to reduce the climate, the negative impact they might have on the climate. Obviously, who they need for that commitment is obviously the upstream industry. So it's the textile and the fiber industry. So they're going to ask us, the industry, to help them to reduce the carbon footprint in the future, and we have to take that into consideration when we plan for the future. Then there's a trend to transparency and traceability. That's a little bit part of sustainability. Brands need to be more transparent, and they need to prove that. And with that, they need to have some traceability. I have here a slide that shows that 37% of the 150 relative big brands were already publishing supplier lists of tier 1 suppliers. These are apparel suppliers. But it will not stop there. The brands and the retailers will need to know and will want to know who are the tier 2 and the tier 3 suppliers in the future. Who produced the fabric? Who produced the yarn? And along with it comes obviously who supplied the fiber. And with technology being more and more available, I have listed 4 companies that are offering some sort of traceability technology. Some are DNA based, some are based on chemical traces in the product. This will be becoming an important trend for the future, especially if prices for these technologies are falling, which they have to, because nobody really wants to pay for them at the moment, unless it's a very exclusive product, whether it's the Supima or Egyptian cotton. But these technologies are already applied in many other industries, and the textile industry will be part of that. Then some industry trends, of course, infrastructure. We should not forget that infrastructure is, of course, a lifeline for global growth, and we have many projects, whether it's the Belt and Road Initiative of the Chinese, but also other infrastructure projects which are helping the textile industry more in the technical textile segment to develop. Well, that brings me also quickly to one political trend, which is protectionism, nationalism, and we have heard that before. This is something we have to take into account, and is a big problem for some, and some are losing, as we have heard before, and some are winning from these trade disputes, we might call them. How long they're going to last, these trade wars or trade discussions, needs to be seen. I'm optimistic that this is a phase, and hope it's not a trend. To the geographic distribution, just a few minutes. I know I'm running out of time. I'm just focusing now on spinning technologies, on short staple spindles, and then also on rotor, open-end rotors. So these are the latest numbers. Until 2017, the numbers for 2018 will be published in the months of May or June. But this is a very similar picture as in previous years. China is still the dominant investor, followed by India, as you can see. And then, as we have heard before, Bangladesh and Vietnam are the next biggest consumers or buyers, investors for ring spindles. Uzbekistan is not quite right there. I'm not sure how this name dropped in there. They are investing also quite heavily lately, and it seems that I got the wrong name there. Anyway, important to see here is China. China still has a share of around 50% of total investments, and this is not going away. You know, people were asking me, do you see anytime soon a trend where China's share will come down because it's just too expensive to produce in China? This is not the case until now, and I will elaborate a little later on it, why. The same is true now for, and even more pronounced, in rotor spinning, where China is by far the largest investor, as you can see. On the right-hand side of the graph, and with a share of 60% of world shipments going to China. Of course, by Chinese producers, and many machines are produced in China. China is a very important textile machinery producer, not only in spinning, but also in the other segments. I'm going to skip those slides on texturing spindles. I let you have a quick look at it. The same story, China #1, followed by Japan. But China, as a man-made fiber dominant producer and consumer of man-made fibers, that's not a surprise. Shuttleless loom, again, it's China and India. China still having a share of around 50%. The same is true for knitting, where circular knitting machines, where numbers were coming down, but India second before Bangladesh. Electronic flat knitting machines, China's share is coming up, even with the adoption of better technology. And in finishing machines, China is by far the most important country. That's, again, the manufacturing cost for ring spinning in different countries. You see that India is among the most competitive countries when it comes at cost, just looking at cost, together with Pakistan and Indonesia and also Bangladesh. So here's the explanation why China, also part of the explanation, is still such a dominant investor. It's simply because they are investing in new machinery. Productivity is very high, automation level is very high, and therefore the unit labor cost increases are not as much as people think. If they look at double-digit labor cost increases, you know, of 10, 15, 20%, simply because they are very productive in the way they produce. And secondly, as we have seen with the slides I have shown before, they have a unique industry cluster from spinning to finishing to apparel production. Second to none, and therefore they can be very quick. They can produce any lot size, large lots, small lots, and this is an advantage that is difficult to fight against, and or from a Chinese perspective, difficult to lose as long as you invest in the latest machinery, which they do. Outlook, I'm going to skip the outlook very quickly because it has been said before. Cotton share will decrease. The absolute level will remain the same. Man-made fibers will be the big winners, if you wish, of the next 10 years, especially filament, not so much short staple, polyester staple, which is increasing as well, but especially filament. Fiber production, I just referred to it, is concentrated very much in China, as you can see from that slide, both polyester and staple fibers. And therefore, China has a big advantage when it comes to man-made fiber. India's fiber production is increasing too by 17%, man-made fiber production, but from a much lower level, you know, a tenth of what is produced roughly in China. The big picture is that both China and India will grow very fast in the next few years. GDP growth is immense. And this is, of course, then consequently also driving per capita fiber consumption, which is increasing also in India significantly from only 5.8 to 8.2 kilograms per capita by 2030, which is a big number if you multiply it by the population. Here's the summary of what I have presented. I'm not going through it again, but I would just focus on the last point. Since we are a cotton conference, cotton remains the largest supplier of staple fiber. It's still the reference in the staple fiber industry, even though blends might increase in the future. On the one hand side, because it's more competitive as compared to cotton-only products, but at the same time, since sustainability and recycling requirements might favor to have cotton-only products in the future more than we have seen in the last 5 to 10 years. This will need to be decided by technology. With that, I end my presentation, and thank you once again for your attention and for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schindler, Mr. Schindler, for sharing that presentation with us. And I would also like to make an announcement that the tea break has been called off, given that we're already running really late. So I would recommend, if you already have tea, you can bring it inside. And for everyone who's already outside, can please come in, get their teas inside, they're most welcome. And now continuing with our session, I would like to invite Dr. K.R. Kranti, one of the foremost research scientists in cotton, currently head Technical Information Section, International Cotton Advisory Committee. CI has enjoyed a very special bond with Dr. Kranti, who has always found time to write a regular column in CI's weekly newsletter, Cotton Statistics and News. I would request him to kindly come on stage and share his opinions with us.
Good afternoon. I'm thrilled to be here, to be able to stand before you. There's nothing better than an Indian cotton audience. Cotton is a globally traded commodity. It's a highly competitive commodity again. No wonder India is always under scrutiny. India is under lens. That will be my theme today. What does the cotton crop need? The cotton crop needs good sunshine. It needs a bit of water, which is the normal rainfall, and something to eat, which is in the form of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. In typical terms, it's about 45 kilograms of nitrogen. Good seed, good management, and if you're looking at